If you're over 60, I need you to hear this. The bread sitting in your kitchen right now, the same kind you've been eating for decades, could be silently damaging your heart every single day. And what's worse, you probably believe it's helping you. But I've seen it too many times. Seniors walking into my clinic proud of their diets. I don't eat fried food. I avoid sugar. I switch to wheat bread. And yet they're still battling high blood pressure, irregular heart rhythms, fatigue, even early signs of heart failure. How is that possible? Because not all bread is heart-friendly after 60, especially when it's packed with hidden sodium sugars chemicals, or when it's eaten in the wrong way, at the wrong time, or in the wrong amount. What used to be safe comfort food has, for many aging hearts, become a slow and silent threat. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 9 specific types of bread that may be quietly undermining your health and what to eat instead. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. The first one is probably on your breakfast plate right now, and the last one, it may shock you more than any of the rest. Let's begin. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments, if not, type 0, to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. White bread. The soft slice that's white bread. Silently spiking your blood pressure at first glance. White bread looks harmless. Soft, comforting, familiar. For many older Americans, it's a staple of their kitchen toast in the morning, a sandwich at lunch. Maybe a buttered slice with soup in the evening. It feels safe after all. We grew up with it, but here's the hard truth. White bread is one of the most deceptive threats to your heart. After 60, and far too many seniors are paying the price for a comfort food that's quietly working against them. You see, white bread is made from refined flour that has been stripped of nearly all its natural fiber, vitamins, and minerals. What's left is a high glycemic, blood sugar spiking starch that behaves more like a sugar cube than a complex carbohydrate when you eat it. Your blood sugar rises rapidly, then it crashes, this up and down roller coaster puts immense strain on your insulin system, which over time can lead to insulin resistance, weight gain, and ultimately type 2 diabetes, a condition that dramatically increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, and early death. But it doesn't stop there. White bread is also surprisingly high in sodium, especially when mass-produced. One slice can contain up to 200 milligrams of sodium, and most people don't stop at 1-2 slices for a sandwich, and one at breakfast can easily push you over 600 mg before lunch for a senior whose recommended daily sodium intake should stay under 500 mg. That's nearly half the day's limit from bread alone. Sodium raises blood pressure by causing the body to retain fluid, increasing blood volume, and forcing the heart to work harder with each beat. Over time, this leads to left ventricular hypertrophy, an enlarged heart, stiffened arteries, and eventually congestive heart failure. Let me tell you about Mr. Walter Green, an 81-year-old retired teacher from Iowa. He came to my clinic complaining of shortness of breath and ankle swelling. His blood pressure was high, despite taking 2 medications. He said he'd eaten clean for years, no fast food, no bacon, no desserts. But when I reviewed his food log, I noticed something consistent: toast with breakfast, white bread with lunch, and sometimes a slice at dinner. 3 slices a day, every day, for decades. When we tested his A1C and reviewed his blood pressure trend, the pattern became clear. His blood sugar was creeping upward, and his sodium intake, largely from his beloved bread, was sabotaging his medications. He was unknowingly overloading his heart with every soft bite we switched him to. Whole grain bread educated him about sodium, and within 6 weeks his blood pressure stabilized. He looked at me and said, "Doc, I thought bread was the least of my worries. Turns out it was the most." And Mr. Green is not alone. So many seniors are doing their best, they think they're eating smart. No fries, no candy, but they forget the danger of what looks harmless. White bread is not food. For a senior heart, it's a trap. It digests quickly, inflames your arteries, robs your body of fiber, and it turns every meal into a cardiovascular burden. After 60, your heart can't afford to be tricked by softness, and here's the scariest part. If white bread can do this much damage without you even tasting the danger, what about the breads that hide even more sodium, sugar, and chemicals? Masquerading as healthy options in your grocery aisle, let's talk about that next. You might be eating one of them right now. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me now. Let's move on to point number 2. 2. Mass-reduced packaged bread. The convenient loaf that's slowly mass-produced packaged bread. Strangling your heart. If you walk down any grocery store aisle in America, you'll see shelves lined with perfectly uniform loaves of bread. Soft, spongy, wrapped in plastic, stamped with promises like heart healthy whole grain, or low fat for many seniors living on fixed incomes or limited mobility. This kind of bread seems like a practical, smart choice. It's affordable, accessible, and lasts weeks without going stale. But what most people don't realize is that this convenience comes at a hidden cost. Your heart-packaged bread isn't just flour, water, and yeast anymore. Behind that innocent slice lies a cocktail of preservatives, emulsifiers, stabilizers, and worst of all, sodium and added sugar. These aren't added for your health. They're added to make the bread look fluffier, last longer, and sell faster. And for a heart over 60 years old, every single one of those ingredients can be deadly over time. One of the worst offenders is sodium. Most commercial breads, yes, even the ones labeled whole grain, contain between 150 to 300 millis of sodium per slice. That means a basic sandwich could quietly deliver 600 millim of sodium or more, and that's before you even add deli meat, condiments, or cheese for an aging heart that's already dealing with stiffening arteries and slower kidney function. That sodium causes the body to retain fluid, increases blood volume, and raises blood pressure day after day. The heart begins to work harder, the arteries become less flexible, and the stage is set for chronic hypertension and heart failure. Now let me tell you about Mrs. Lorraine Banks, a 77-year-old widow from Illinois who came to my clinic with constant fatigue and swelling. In her lower legs, her blood pressure was elevated despite being on 3 medications. She told me she was eating simple food. Mostly soups, toast, and sandwiches. No chips, no fast food. She thought she was doing everything right. But when we asked her to bring in a food journal, we noticed the pattern. She ate the same package, wheat bread, 3 times a day. Slice at breakfast, 2 for lunch, another at night. I pulled the label, 230 milligrams of sodium per slice, multiply that by 4 and add the sodium in her soups and cheese, and she was unknowingly consuming over 2,000 mouths of sodium daily, well over the safe limit for seniors. Her heart was silently drowning in salt, and because seniors' kidneys don't clear sodium as effectively, it had begun to accumulate, causing fluid retention, shortness of breath, and eventually early-stage congestive heart failure. We made simple changes, switched her to a no salt-added sprouted grain bread, taught her how to read nutrition labels, and replaced canned soup with homemade options. Within a month, her blood pressure dropped, the swelling eased, her energy returned. I'll never forget what she said. "I never thought bread could hurt me, doctor." But it was the quietest poison I've ever known, and she's not alone. Millions of seniors are falling for clever packaging and comforting textures, not realizing that mass-produced bread is often engineered for shelf life, not for life itself. So if that innocent loaf of bread in your pantry is hiding sodium, sugar, and chemicals, Imagine what's lurking inside those sweet, buttery breads. We treat ourselves to on special occasions, because up next we're talking about the soft, golden bread that melts in your mouth and clogs your arteries without mercy. Stay with me. You need to hear this before your next bite. 3 sweetbreads and bio. The buttery sweetbreads and brioche bites that are quietly clogging your arteries. There's something almost sacred about sweet bread. The warm scent of cinnamon, the golden crust glistening with butter, the soft interior melting on your tongue. It reminds many of us of Sunday breakfast, holiday gatherings, or afternoons at the diner with a cup of coffee for older Americans. Sweetbreads like bio, Hawaiian rolls, cinnamon bread, and butter loaf carry memories of comfort, family, and tradition. But what most seniors don't know is that every sweet, fluffy bite may be silently loading your bloodstream with fats and sugars that directly attack your heart. Let's speak plainly. These breads are not innocent treats. They're nutritional traps, and they're especially dangerous after the age of 60. When the metabolism slows, the arteries stiffen, and the heart becomes more vulnerable to hidden inflammation and fat buildup. What makes these breads so harmful? It starts with the ingredients. Sweetbreads are made with refined white flour, added sugars, and large amounts of saturated fat, usually from buttercream or whole milk. This combination doesn't just raise your blood sugar, it creates a dangerous chemical cocktail in your bloodstream that promotes insulin-resistance spikes, LDL cholesterol, and triggers chronic low-grade inflammation in your blood vessels over time. These factors converge into a perfect storm for atherosclerosis, or hardening and narrowing of the arteries for seniors. This process moves faster than you think. Let me tell you about Mr. Calvin Reed, a 75-year-old former truck driver from Oklahoma who came into my office with chest tightness and unexplained fatigue. His blood pressure was borderline, his cholesterol was manageable on medication, and his weight wasn't alarming on paper. He didn't look like a heart attack risk, but his coronary calcium scan told another story. Significant plaque buildup, the real clue, came when we discussed his diet. Calvin told me, "Doc, I don't eat sweets. I just have a little cinnamon bread with my coffee each morning, a couple slices, it's homemade." But homemade didn't mean healthy. We broke it down. Each slice had over 12 grams of sugar and 3 grams of saturated fat. 2 slices daily added up to over 700 extra calories a week, mostly from ingredients that actively fuel arterial plaque over years. That little treat became a daily assault on his heart. Invisible, painless, but relentless, we immediately replaced his morning bread with whole grain toast topped with almond butter and banana slices, giving him fiber, healthy fat, and a stable release of energy. 3 months later, his follow-up scan showed stabilization. No new plaque. More importantly, Calvin said something I'll never forget. That bread was killing me, and I didn't even know it. I was feeding my heart the wrong love. Here's the painful truth. After 60, your body can't process sugar and saturated fat the way it once did. Sweetbreads flood your system with both. They taste gentle but act aggressively. They create a surge in insulin, a spike in triglycerides, and a cascade of inflammatory responses that make your heart stiffer, heavier, and weaker over time. The damage is slow but deadly, and worst of all, you don't feel it happening until it's too late. So the next time you're offered a slice of buttery bio or a sweet roll with your coffee, remember this. That softness may come at the cost of your next breath, and if that wasn't frightening enough, what if I told you there's a popular bread millions of seniors are eating that seems savory and flavorful, but it's actually coated in butter, loaded with garlic, and can completely undo your heart medications in just a few bites? Stay with me. What you're about to hear next might change the way you season your meals forever. if you're still watching and finding these insights valuable. Please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Or now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Garlic bread. The golden garlic bread crust that's silencing your heart medications. It smells like home, that warm, savory scent of garlic. Butter wafting through the kitchen, golden slices crisped just enough on the edges, soft in the middle. For many seniors, garlic bread is more than a side dish. It's a small joy tied to memories of family dinners, pasta nights, and comfort on hard days. But what if I told you that the very bread you think is adding flavor to your life could actually be canceling out your heart medications silently, steadily, and without a single warning sign? This isn't just about salt or calories. Garlic bread poses a triple threat to aging hearts through its high sodium content, saturated fats, and something far more dangerous: interference with blood-thinning medications, the very drugs keeping many seniors alive today. Let me explain garlic, especially in concentrated or raw. Raw form is a natural blood thinner. It contains a compound called allicinin, which can interfere with platelet aggregation, making your blood less likely to clot. While that might sound helpful for heart health in theory, when combined with prescription anticoagulants like Warfarin, Eliquis, Xarelto, or even daily aspirin, it becomes a dangerous cocktail. Your blood may become too thin, increasing your risk of internal bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or sudden blood pressure crashes. Now consider this. Garlic bread isn't just garlic. It's garlic mixed with butter or margarine, often loaded with saturated fats and hydrogenated oils, which raise LDL cholesterol and damage the arterial lining. Then add the refined white bread base, which spikes blood sugar and adds nothing of nutritional value. And finally, the salt, sometimes 300 to 500 million moles of sodium per slice, pushing blood pressure upward. Drop by drop, bite by bite, you may not taste the risk, but your heart feels it. Let me share the story of Mrs. Joan Ellis, a 79-year-old widow from Michigan, a sweet, gentle woman who loved cooking for her grandkids. She'd been managing atrial fibrillation with warfarin for years, doing well, but one winter she began feeling dizzy, tired, and had unexplained bruises on her arms and legs when she collapsed while gardening. Her daughter rushed her to the ER, her INR level. The test that measures blood thinness was dangerously elevated. She hadn't changed her meds, but when I asked about her diet, she told me she'd been baking garlic bread several times a week. Fresh garlic, melted butter. Her treat, she believed she was helping her heart. But what she didn't know was that her regular garlic intake, combined with her blood thinner, had quietly pushed her into a high risk bleeding state. We made immediate changes, scaled back. The garlic removed, butter, lowered sodium, and rebuilt her meals with safer heart friendly ingredients. Thankfully, she recovered, but she told me something that still echoes in my mind. I didn't feel sick. I felt normal. I thought I was doing something good for myself. That's the terrifying part. You can feel fine while your medications are being muted, while your heart, your liver, your blood vessels are working over time to process something your body can no longer handle the way it once did. After 60, the margin for error narrows. What your heart tolerated in your 40s, it may not survive in your 70s. So yes, garlic has benefits, but not when it's mixed with saturated fat, refined flour, and layered on top of the very medications protecting your life. Here's the reality. Garlic bread is just one example of a flavorful favorite that seems innocent, but behaves like poison when paired with aging biology and heart meds. But what if I told you there's a type of bread marketed as healthy, often labeled light diabetic friendly or low carb, that may contain artificial sweeteners, wreaking havoc on your digestion, blood pressure, and even your memory? That's what we're diving into next, and trust me, This one might be hiding in your fridge right now. Stay with me. 5 bread with artificial sweeteners. The bread with artificial sweeteners. Guilt-free slice that's quietly disrupting your body and mind. It's advertised as smart. Safe, sugar-free. A diabetic-friendly bread promising all the taste with none of the guilt. You see it on grocery store shelves labeled with phrases like low-carb keto or zero sugar, and as a senior trying to eat responsibly, it feels like the obvious choice you may think you're doing. Your heart and your blood sugar a favor, but what if I told you that these sweet-tasting breads, often filled with artificial sweeteners like sucralose sorbitol and aspartame, are quietly upsetting your gut, stressing your heart, and even affecting your brain? Let's break it down. Artificial sweeteners may not spike your blood sugar directly, but they do confuse your body's natural regulatory systems. These chemicals trick your brain into thinking sugar is on the way, prompting a surge in insulin, even though no real glucose enters the bloodstream over time. This disrupts insulin sensitivity, increases cravings, and ironically makes it harder to control your blood sugar for seniors already dealing with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. This creates a metabolic storm that places even more pressure on the heart, but the impact doesn't stop with blood sugar. Many of these sweeteners, especially sorbitol and xylitol, are poorly absorbed in the small intestine. They ferment in the colon, causing bloating, gas, and diarrhea, a problem that might seem minor in youth but becomes dangerous after 60 when digestion naturally slows and the gut becomes more sensitive. And for someone already dealing with atrial fibrillation, heart failure, or high blood pressure, even mild dehydration from chronic diarrhea can trigger electrolyte imbalances, dizziness, and cardiac arrhythmias. I want to tell you about Mr. Benjamin Hull, a 73-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio. He came to my clinic complaining of constant bloating fatigue and occasional lightheadedness. His medications were unchanged. His labs looked stable, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off when we reviewed his food habits. Noticed a new brand of low-carb diabetic safe bread he'd been eating twice a day. It was loaded with sorbitol and sucralose within days of removing the bread and switching to a simple whole grain option. His bloating disappeared, his blood pressure stabilized, and the dizzy spells stopped. What surprised Benjamin the most wasn't the bread. It was that he'd felt like he was doing everything right. I was just trying to avoid sugar. He told me I didn't know. The substitute was worse than the real thing. What many seniors don't realize is that the FDA allows manufacturers to use language like sugar-free or low-carb without explaining the full metabolic consequences of these sweeteners. They don't warn you about the gut-brain connection or the link between artificial sweeteners and cognitive decline in older adults. Yes, emerging research shows that long-term use of these compounds may increase the risk of memory impairment, anxiety, and even mood disorders, conditions that already challenge so many aging Americans. And let's not forget, these breads often lack fiber, lack nutrients, and are made from highly processed flours to simulate the texture of real bread. So while they claim to be a better option, they offer nothing. Your heart truly needs, and may in fact work against everything your medications and body are trying to accomplish. So if that guilt-free slice is making your heart race, your stomach churn, and your brain foggy, is it really worth the label? Because here's what most seniors never hear. Not everything labeled healthy is safe for your heart. And if the problem with artificial sweeteners is what you can't taste, then wait until you learn about the next danger. A hidden chemical baked into everyday store-bought bread that was never meant for your body in the first place, but is quietly raising your cholesterol and feeding heart disease from the inside out. You need to know what this additive is, and chances are it's in the bread you're eating right now. Let's talk about that next bread with emulsifiers and softeners 6. Bread with emulsifiers and softeners, the fresh loaf that's quietly harming your heart and gut. It looks perfect. Soft, springy uniform. You squeeze the bag and the loaf bounces back fresh as ever. Even a week after purchase, that's no accident. It's the result of chemicals, emulsifiers, softeners, stabilizers, ingredients like datim, diacetyl tartaric acid esters of mono and diglycerides. Monoglycerides, diglycerides, and calcium propionate, words too long to pronounce and too dangerous to ignore for seniors. These additives are not just preservatives, they are silent agitators in your digestive system and bloodstream, and most people have no idea they're consuming them every single day. You see, these emulsifiers and softeners are added to bread to keep it soft longer, prevent mold, and improve texture. But studies show that many of them, especially daytime, can interfere with cholesterol metabolism, promoting inflammation in blood vessels, and even contributing to atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of the arteries. That means every slice of ultra-soft bread may be nudging you one step closer to heart disease, even if it tastes like nothing more than a light breakfast. And there's another layer to this story. These same additives have been shown to disrupt gut bacteria, the microbiome that plays a critical role in immune function, digestion, and even mood regulation for seniors over 60, whose gut lining is more fragile and whose immune response is already slower. This can be disastrous. Emulsifiers can create low-grade inflammation in the gut, making it harder to absorb nutrients, irritating the bowel, and even leading to symptoms like bloating, fatigue, joint pain, and brain fog over time. That inflammation doesn't stay in the gut. It travels through the bloodstream, feeding systemic inflammation that directly damages your heart. Let me tell you about Mrs. Carol Whitman, a 76-year-old retired librarian from New Hampshire. Carol was diligent. She exercised, kept her blood pressure under control, and avoided sweets. But she came to me feeling constantly tired, bloated, and unable to concentrate. Her cholesterol was slowly creeping up, even though her diet seemed clean. I asked her to bring in her food labels. That's when we found it. She had been eating 2 slices every morning of a soft whole wheat bread that proudly claimed to be healthy. It was packed with datim, monoglycerides, and calcium propionate. We made the switch to a simple organic additive. Free whole grain loaf. Nothing fancy. No stretchable softness. No 3 to W week shelf life, but real food. Within a few weeks, her bloating eased, her energy improved, and on her next labs, her LDL cholesterol had dropped by 18 points. She told me, "I thought bread was bread, doc. I didn't realize the softness was coming at such a cost." And that's the truth. Too few seniors hear the more perfect and soft your bread is, the more chemicals it likely contains, and many of those chemicals were never tested for long-term safety. In older adults, think about it. Our generation grew up baking bread at home or buying it fresh from a local bakery. It would go stale in 2 days, mold in 5. Now bread can sit on a shelf for 3 weeks and still feel like a pillow that's not natural, and your heart knows the difference even if your taste buds don't. So the next time you're tempted by a perfectly soft loaf that claims to be whole grain, flip the label. If you see words like datim mono and diglycerides or propionate, know this: your heart deserves better, your gut deserves better, you deserve better. But if that chemical-laced bread isn't enough to alarm you, wait until you hear about a common pairing with it, one that many seniors believe is a healthier switch from red meat. But in reality, it might be the most sodium-loaded artery hardening topping you could choose for your sandwich. Yes, it's in your fridge right now, and it could be the real reason your blood pressure won't budge. Let's look at that next. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, Please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here now. Let's keep going with point number 7. 7 white sandwich bread with processed meats. The salty combo. White sandwich bread with processed meats. That's silently stiffening your arteries. It's a classic lunch for millions of older Americans. A soft white sandwich bun, a few slices of turkey or ham, maybe a piece of cheese and a pickle on the side. It feels light, simple, even heart-smart compared to a greasy burger or fried chicken. But this everyday meal, something you might eat without a second thought, is quietly, consistently putting enormous pressure on your heart. Especially if you're over 60. Here's the truth. Most seniors don't hear white bread paired with processed deli. Meats creates one of the most dangerous combinations for an aging cardiovascular system. Why? Because it's not just one problem. It's multiple threats colliding in one innocent sandwich. Let's start with the bread, as we discussed earlier. White sandwich bread is made from refined flour, offering little to no fiber and quickly spiking your blood sugar after 60, when your glucose metabolism naturally slows down. These spikes become more than temporary. They fuel insulin resistance, weight gain around the abdomen, and long-term vascular inflammation. That alone would be enough to warrant concern. But then we add in the meat-processed meats, like deli turkey, ham salami, and even low-fat chicken slices are loaded with sodium nitrates and preservatives. A typical serving of deli meat contains between 500 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium. That's up to 80% of your entire recommended daily intake in one meal. And that doesn't even include the sodium already in the bread, cheese, or condiments. When sodium levels stay elevated, the body retains fluid to try and dilute it. That extra fluid increases blood volume, causing your heart to pump harder and your blood pressure to rise over time. This leads to arterial thickening, left ventricular hypertrophy, your heart muscle growing too thick, and eventually congestive heart failure. And let's not forget the nitrates and nitrites in processed meats. These compounds, used to preserve color and flavor, have been linked to endothelial damage, which weakens the inner lining of your blood vessels, making them more vulnerable to plaque buildup and rupture, the root cause of strokes and heart attacks. I remember a patient named Mr. Leonard Price, a 74-year-old retired Navy veteran from Virginia. Leonard was the picture of discipline. He walked every morning, took his medications on time, and stayed away from sweets. But his blood pressure was always borderline high, and he often felt elated after standing up too quickly. We couldn't figure it out until I asked about his lunch. He told me proudly that he ate the same thing every day. A turkey sandwich with some mustard on white bread. It sounded harmless. But once we added it up, that meal alone was giving him over 500 milligrams of sodium and nearly no fiber or potassium to help balance it. He was silently flooding his system with salt while offering his arteries no protection. We replaced his white bread with a low-sodium whole-grain option, swapped out deli meat for home-cooked shredded chicken, and added leafy greens and avocado for potassium. In 4 weeks, his blood pressure dropped by 15 points. His dizzy spells stopped. He looked at me and said, "All these years I thought I was eating smart. I didn't know my sandwich was hurting me." And Leonard is not alone. So many older adults are doing their best with what they know. But the food industry doesn't make it easy. They disguise danger in everyday meals. A simple sandwich becomes a sodium bomb, a blood sugar spike, and a cholesterol-laden lunch, all rolled into one. If you're over 60, your heart doesn't need fancy diets. It needs honest food with honest ingredients, free from hidden threats. And just when you think you've avoided the worst, what if I told you some breads marketed as whole grain or healthy are actually sitting in your freezer right now? Filled with preservatives meant to survive months, not nourish your heart. What's frozen isn't always safe, and in this next section, I'll show you why. Frozen pre-made bread. Let's talk about the hidden danger inside frozen pre-made breads and how they could be silently eroding your health from the inside out. 8. Frozen pre-made bread. The convenient loaf that's slowly poisoning your heart from the inside. It's tucked neatly in your freezer, ready to go at a moment's notice. Just pop it in the oven or toaster, and within minutes you have fresh, warm bread on your plate. No mess, no fuss for many seniors. Frozen pre-made breads feel like a smart, time-saving choice. After all, you're not eating fast food, you're eating bread, right? But what if I told you that these convenient loaves may be one of the most chemically loaded hearting foods in your entire kitchen? Let's talk about what really happens when bread is engineered to survive months in a freezer. Thaw quickly and still taste fresh, these breads are often ultra-processed, packed with chemical stabilizers, emulsifiers, anti-caking agents, preservatives, and sometimes industrial seed oils that have no business in your bloodstream. It's not just bread anymore, it's food science made to simulate bread. But with long-term effects your aging heart cannot afford. One of the most concerning ingredients found in many frozen breads is calcium propionate, a mold inhibitor. While it prevents spoilage, studies suggest it may also cause gut inflammation, headaches, and contribute to metabolic disruption, especially when consumed regularly over time. For someone in their 30s, the liver and kidneys might handle it, but after 60, your detox pathways slow down, your immune response weakens, and your gut lining becomes more fragile, allowing these chemical residues to enter the bloodstream and promote systemic inflammation. That inflammation doesn't stay in the gut, it travels through your blood vessels, making them less elastic, more reactive, and more prone to plaque buildup. Combine that with high sodium content, which frozen breads often have in abundance, and you've created a situation where your heart is fighting two battles: the pressure of excess fluid and the silent attack of inflammation from within. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Eileen Conway, a 78-year-old retired school principal from Oregon. She came to my office with complaints of extreme fatigue and a strange, persistent heaviness in her chest. Not sharp pain, just pressure. Her EKG showed mild changes, but nothing conclusive. Her blood pressure was slightly elevated, and she had no major cholesterol issues. At first, her case puzzled me. Then I asked about her meals. Eileen lived alone and prided herself on being independent. She kept her freezer stocked with frozen dinners and pre-made items to make life easier, including a brand of multigrain frozen bread she had with nearly every meal. She thought it was healthy. We dug into the label that bread, while labeled multigrain, was packed with preservatives, artificial dough conditioners, and over 400 mg of sodium per slice. No fiber, no whole grains, just filler and chemicals cleverly disguised. We removed it from her diet, replaced it with simple, fresh, whole grain bread from a local bakery. And over the course of 8 weeks, her blood pressure normalized, the chest heaviness disappeared. Her energy came back, she told me. I thought I was saving time, but I was stealing strength from my heart without even knowing it. Eileen's story is one I've heard too often: seniors doing their best, but being misled by packaging and convenience. Frozen bread isn't just cold bread. It's a manufactured product built for shelf life, not heart life. And when you're over 60, the stakes are higher. Your arteries are more sensitive, your metabolism is slower, and your ability to filter toxins is reduced. What might be a minor stressor for someone younger could become a ticking time bomb for you. So the next time you reach into your freezer for that ready-to-bake loaf, ask yourself, is it nourishing me or just tricking me with texture and timing? Because what's hidden in the ingredients list is more powerful than what you see on the label. And here's the most frightening part. Even if you've made all the right food swaps, even if you've avoided the white bread, the deli meats, the frozen shortcuts, there's still one silent mistake many seniors make: eating too much of a heart-healthy bread. thinking it's harmless only overwhelm their system with excess fiber, potassium, or carbs. In the next section, we'll explore how too much of a good thing can quietly turn against your heart after 60, and why even whole grain bread in the wrong amount can push your body past its limits. You don't want to miss this. 9. Overdoing heart-healthy bread. Overdoing heart-healthy bread when too much of a good thing quietly overwhelms the aging body. We've been told since childhood that whole grain bread is good for us, and for the most part, that's true. Whole grains provide fiber, B vitamins, magnesium, and nutrients that support heart health. But there's something most seniors are never warned about. Even the healthiest bread, when eaten in excess or without awareness, can become a hidden burden on your aging heart. And by the time the symptoms appear, the damage may already be in motion. Let me be clear. This isn't about demonizing healthy food. This is about understanding the delicate balance your body requires after age 60. Because once we cross that line, everything changes. Digestion slows, kidney function declines, the heart becomes less forgiving. Suddenly, healthy choices made in large quantities or at the wrong times can become harmful, even dangerous. Take, for example, Ezekiel bread, a sprouted grain bread praised for its nutritional profile. It's packed with fiber, protein, and no added sugars. But one of my patients, Mr. Howard Reese, a 72-year-old retired pastor from Tennessee, learned the hard way that more doesn't always mean better. Howard was committed to turning his health around after a mild stroke. He eliminated white bread and began eating Ezekiel bread with every meal. Sometimes 3 to 4 slices a day. He felt like he was finally doing the right thing. But within 2 months, Howard began experiencing bloating, fatigue, muscle cramps, and irregular heartbeat. At first, he thought it was just part of getting older. But when his blood work came back, it showed elevated potassium levels and signs of early kidney stress. That's when we connected the dots. Whole grain and sprouted breads, while beneficial, are often high in potassium and phosphorus, which can build up in the bloodstream when the kidneys are not functioning optimally. A common issue in older adults. On top of that, the high fiber load from eating multiple slices a day can irritate the gut, cause discomfort, and interfere with nutrient absorption for someone taking medications like ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics such as lisinopril or spironolactone. The combination of excess potassium and reduced excretion can lead to hyperkalemia, a dangerous condition that affects heart rhythm and can result in sudden cardiac events. When I explained this to Howard, he was stunned. He said, "I was doing what every doctor says: more fiber, whole grains, no sugar. I didn't know I was overwhelming my body." We adjusted his intake, just 1 slice a day, paired with low potassium meals and increased hydration. Within 3 weeks, his symptoms improved and his labs stabilized, but the experience left him cautious and wiser. You see, the older body doesn't just need healthy food, it needs the right amount at the right time, in harmony with medications and metabolic needs. Too much of a good thing without the wisdom to match it can quietly become a stressor rather than a support. And here's something else to remember. Many whole grain breads labeled as healthy aren't as pure as they seem. Some still contain added sugars, seed oils, or sodium that it can undermine their benefits. Others are so dense in nutrients that the digestive system of a senior simply can't keep up with. Processing them in large portions, it's not a matter of willpower or intelligence. It's about physiology, about recognizing that your 70-year-old heart isn't built to metabolize food the way it did at 40. So if you've proudly replaced all your bread with whole grain options but feel no better or worse, don't ignore that signal. It may not be the type of bread, but the quantity and context in which you're eating it. Balance is everything. Consistency is key, and listening to your body is the most important ingredient of all. But now that we've walked through the dangers, what can you do about it? If bread has been a quiet enemy in your kitchen, how can you turn it into an ally for your heart? In our next and final section, I'll show you exactly what kinds of bread support a strong, steady heart after 60 and how to eat them in ways that heal. Not harm you don't want to miss this 10. So then what kind of bread should seniors eat to truly support their heart after everything we've uncovered about white bread processed grains, sodium traps, chemical additives, and even the dangers of overdoing the good stuff? One question remains. What can I eat, doctor? What kind of bread is actually safe for my heart now that I'm in my 60s or beyond? It's a question I hear every week in my clinic, and the truth is, bread doesn't have to be the enemy. In fact, the right kind of bread eaten in the right way can become one of the most comforting and supportive foods for your aging heart. But the key lies in 3 things: ingredients, preparation, and portion. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Shirley Duncan, an 82-year-old retired nurse from North Carolina. After a mild heart attack, she felt lost and overwhelmed. She told me everything I used to eat is now on a list of things I shouldn't. Bread was the hardest to give up: her breakfast, to toast, her turkey sandwich at lunch, her occasional roll at dinner. These were part of her routine, her comfort, and she didn't want to live in fear every time she took a bite. So we didn't tell her to give up bread. We taught her how to eat it with wisdom. We started by focusing on low-sodium whole grain bread with a short ingredient list. Nothing fancy, nothing marketed to trick the eye. Just stone ground, whole wheat water, salt and yeast ideally made locally fresh or from a trusted organic brand that didn't add preservatives or fake softeners. Shirley began on choosing breads that had at least 3 grams of fiber per slice, no added sugars, and under 140 milligenners of sodium. Then we talked about portion and pairing. 1 slice instead of 2, always paired with heart-supportive foods like avocado rich in potassium, natural almond butter, healthy fats or sliced tomato with olive oil, no deli meats, no butter, no high-sodium spreads. If she ate bread, it was surrounded by real healing food. And we made one more change: timing. We encouraged her to enjoy bread during breakfast or lunch when her body was more active and her digestion stronger. Not at night, when insulin resistance increases with age. These small shifts made a big difference in 3 months. Shirley lost weight naturally, her blood pressure stabilized, her energy returned, and her cardiologist reduced her beta blocker dose, she told me. I didn't feel like I was punishing myself. I felt like I was finally feeding my body with love and knowledge. So, here's the truth. Yes, you can eat bread after 60. Yes, it can be part of a heart-smart lifestyle, but it must be chosen and eaten with clarity. Not convenience. Look for breads that are sprouted or stone-ground whole grain free from added sugar and preservatives, low in sodium, under 140 milliliters per slice, high in fiber. 3G or more per slice, made with olive oil or no oil at all. And most importantly, don't eat bread alone. Combine it with foods that counterbalance its effects. Fiber, healthy fats, potassium, and antioxidants, you see. Bread isn't just a food, it's a choice, a daily act of either support or sabotage. And after 60, you no longer have the metabolic cushion to eat blindly. Every slice must work with your body, not against it. But now that you've seen the whole picture from danger to healing, there's one more thing I want to share with you. It's the lesson I've learned after caring for thousands of seniors: why small, consistent changes in your eating habits can actually reverse years of hidden damage. If you start today, so don't go just yet in the final reflection. I'll tell you the truth about what your heart really needs now, and why your next meal could be the turning point that gives you not just more years, but better ones. Stay with me. Your heart still has time, and so do you by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or 80s. Most of us have lived through more than we ever expected. We've worked hard, raised families, buried people we loved, made sacrifices no one ever saw. We've survived wars, recessions, losses, illnesses. Our bodies have changed, our energy isn't what it once was, but even now your heart, this faithful muscle that has carried you through every season of life, is still beating, still fighting for you, and still capable of healing. If only you give it the chance. I've spent over 30 years caring for the hearts of older adults. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You are never too old to change, never too late to start making better choices, and never too far gone to feel better. Sometimes much better than you do right now. But change doesn't come from fear alone. It comes from understanding, from finally seeing the patterns that no one ever taught us to notice for many seniors. Bread isn't just food. It's habit. It's tradition. It's connection. You eat the same sandwich you did in 1975. Not because it's the best thing for you, but because it's what feels familiar, comforting, and easy. But now you know more. Now you know that bread can quietly raise your blood pressure, that it can interfere with your medications, that the wrong kind of loaf can inflame your arteries, disrupt your digestion, strain your kidneys, and wear your heart down. Not all at once, but slowly, silently, until one day it becomes the reason you land in a hospital bed asking, "How did this happen?" But it doesn't have to be that way. The truth is, you don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need to give up everything you love. You just need to start asking better questions. You need to read the label. You need to slow down and notice how food makes you feel, not just in the moment, but in the hours and days after that bloating. That afternoon fatigue, that pounding in your chest, those aren't just signs of aging. They're your body whispering, "Please help me." And help doesn't have to be extreme. A better bread, a smaller portion, more water, less salt, cooking at home twice a week instead of once. It all adds up. What matters most after 60 isn't perfection, it's consistency, not punishment, but partnership between you and your body, between you and your doctor, between your food and your future. I remember one of my patients, Mr. Alvin Reyes, a 69-year-old retired firefighter. He once told me, "Doc, I thought my heart was just old and tired, but turns out it was just tired of the way I was treating it today." He walks his dog every morning. He makes his own oatmeal bread on weekends. He sleeps better, laughs more lives, more. He's not chasing youth. He's protecting the life he still has. And so can you. So, as you stand in your kitchen tomorrow morning and reach for that loaf of bread, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself not just what tastes good, but what feels good. Hours later, ask not just what's easy, but what gives you the strength to show up for the people you love, your spouse, your grandchildren, your friends, yourself. Because food at this stage of life is more than just fuel. It's medicine. It's memory. It's a daily decision that can either drain you or restore you. You've come this far. You've endured so much. Don't let bread or any food undo the strength you've earned. Your heart still has time, and so do you. Time to protect it. Time to nourish it. Time to live the way you were always meant to live, not just longer, but lighter, freer, and fully awake to the days you have left. So take that first step today. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with respect for the life you still have and the body that still wants to carry you forward. One wise bite at a time. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned, and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching. And here's to living life on your own terms.